how's everyone doing? Before we dig into The Force Unleashed 2, my brother and I are blown away from all the support you've shown us on recent videos, and we've been reading all these wonderful comments. We want to take a moment to thank you all so much. I want to make a quick plug before we get started.
This video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends.
No, don't fast forward. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. By the way, has anyone seen the Raid Shadow Legend memes? For real. I want to plug our email, 2average_brothers@gmail.com. You can email us with any ideas for videos, or if you want to hang out with us and game with us. The Force Unleashed 2 was heavily requested, so let's take down this Star Destroyer and get into the video. The Star Wars fandom was introduced to Starkiller in 2008 with the release of The Force Unleashed. By 2010, the first game in this newfound series would reach 7 million units sold. This was big news being developed by LucasArts internally. By 2008, not much was being released on the Star Wars front. The animated Clone Wars movie hit theaters on August 10th, 2008. Then its show would begin airing on Cartoon Network on October 3rd, 2008. Another movie wouldn't hit theaters until 2015's The Force Awakens. Starkiller was front and center as possibly the face of Star Wars at the time, with the latest mainline entry being Revenge of the Sith in 2005. LucasArts was looking to strike while the iron was hot following the success of The Force Unleashed, and LucasArts swiftly got to work on what would be their last internally developed project. So what made Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2 so great? The Force Unleashed 2 would be shelled out to every platform possible, just like its predecessor, except for the PlayStation Portable. The tech for The Force Unleashed 2 is tricky using 3 different engines. They use the Havoc engine, Natural Motion's Euphoria, and Digital Molecular Matter for the game. They wanted to make use of a more powerful engine to fix the targeting system, and Hayden Blackman, a writer for the game, said fixing the Force grip system was their top priority. This would also help to make for more epic boss battles, and allow for good old-fashioned dismemberment. This is fun. Yeah, take that. Yeah, how you like me now? Oh, sorry, got carried away there. Hey you. Yes you. Look at the screen. That's beautiful, ain't it? This game was released in 2010. The audio engine was also overhauled. Some sound effects were borrowed from the first game, but the majority were entirely new. The development cycle for this game was hellish. They only had 9 months to complete the game. Hayden Blackman was only given 3 weeks to write the script for the game. He looked to Darksiders, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, and Heavy Rain for influence for the game's dialogue. Originally, Starkiller was intended to be replaced in this game by a new character, but LucasArts wanted to develop more backstory for Starkiller. This game would consist of darker themes, and would be a more personal story on Starkiller. The Force Unleashed 2 would be revealed at Spike Video Game Awards, and I still go back to watch the trailers for this game. My favorite trailer was definitely the Obey Me trailer. Hang on, I gotta watch that again. He disintegrated like a battalion of stormtroopers. Okay, I'll watch it one more time.
5 hours later.
The primary cast returned from the original, so get ready for some more of those sweet, sweet screams from Sam Witwer. The Force Unleashed 2 would be released on October 26th, 2010. Now let's break out those Star Wars timelines. This game takes place 6 months after the first game and a year before A New Hope. This game, just like the original, wants you to feel like you are in a Star Wars movie. You're hit with the iconic opening theme and definitely copyrighted music. You start on Kamino and Darth Vader is looking to put an end to Starkiller's legacy. Vader has been training Flash clones of Starkiller to do his bidding. Come on, Vader. You didn't learn from your mistake last time. Obi-Wan was right. You're blinded by victory. So that means at the end of the first game, he took Starkiller's corpse to be cloned so he could make an army from his deceased apprentice while keeping it hidden from Palpatine. Damn, that is some twisted shit, Vader. That's really dark when you think about it in concept. This Flash clone has survived longer than the rest in isolation. 13 days to be exact. The dialogue between the two is interesting, and it builds a solid connection from the first game due to the Flash cloning process. Then the clone gives an interesting line.
The Force gives me all I need.
The Force?
You can tell that this clone of Starkiller is not a dark side acolyte. Personally, I always found Starkiller to be more of a gray Jedi, but he is definitely more of a clone of the Jedi he became in the first game. I want to clarify from here on out, I will be referring to Starkiller from the first game as Galen, and the clone in the second as Starkiller. Vader wants Starkiller to strike down what Galen loved to see if he's ready to do his bidding. You'll notice that Vader gives Starkiller 2 lightsabers, because this is The Force Unleashed 2. If the follow-up game happened, where would he hold the third one? Unless he uses one double-bladed lightsaber alongside a regular lightsaber. I'd be for it. Some of Juno's dialogue from the first game is played, and it does a few things. It does a fantastic job connecting both of these games, as well as showing the conflict within Starkiller. In the first game, Galen was torn between light and dark, and Starkiller is split between his love for Juno and finding his place in the galaxy. Starkiller isn't able to strike down Juno. Vader believes Starkiller will suffer the same fate as the other clones, and has a vision of when Vader killed Galen and he goes AWOL. He is still going through the process of flash cloning. We know that at this time, Star Wars in the expanded universe had a plethora of material. The Kaminoan clones were efficient but couldn't mass produce enough for the Empire's ambitions, along with clones taking 10 years to become ready for battle. And the Kaminoans weren't the only cloners. One other method Palpatine explored was the Sparty cloners. This process used flash cloning like we see on Starkiller, and this process only took 1 year, but one side effect was clone madness, which is what happens in the previous versions of Starkiller. In the Thrawn trilogy, Grand Admiral Thrawn found a process that would cut their connection to the Force, and the Sparty cloning process could take as little as 15 to 21 days. This doesn't fit the 6-month timeline, but I thought the information would be relevant in this case. Starkiller ravages his way through Kamino, and Vader previously told him that Coda is on Cato Nemoidia, so that's where he wants to head next. Oh, and Starkiller is a man of flashy entrances. We touched on this earlier, but this game has lightsabers that allows dismemberment, and that is always a nice touch. Also, some of the animation, like the dashing animation, was smoothed out. Once you arrive at Vader's ship, you are introduced to a new ability in the game, Force Fury. Starkiller goes absolutely apeshit in this mode, and his ability is turned up to 11. It's fun that Force Push and Repulse are padded with Force Lightning, and he uses his lightsaber attacks via the Force. Another new ability I don't want to forget to mention is Mind Trick. It replaces the useless lightning shield from the first game. This ability is kind of dark because sometimes Starkiller will make stormtroopers take their own lives. Starkiller arrives on Cato Nemoidia and gets out of his hospital gown. Rom Coda has been stuck in the combat arena, reminiscent of the Roman Colosseum. That is what is so unique about Star Wars. Its universe is timeless. Stories and events can fit into different points of time and culture. Starkiller is greeted by the Baron, who wants Imperial security codes for this sector.
It's an older code, sir, but it checks out.
Wait, he doesn't have a code!
Well, time to rip your way through the city. Flash training serves as your way to unlock new abilities as Starkiller is hit with the memories of Galen. There are new enemy variants like Sith Acolytes, Riot Troopers, Carbonite Droids, and the AT-MT up until this point. The icons for the QuickTime events blend on the screen nicely. Starkiller makes his way to the tram and is attacked by TIE fighters, and is eventually attacked by a gunship. They obviously don't know this guy. Starkiller makes his way to the Coliseum and reunites with Coda.
You can sit this one out, General.
By the Force, I knew you were alive.
It's nice seeing these two back together again. The Baron, as salty as ever, sends out the Gorog. Starkiller looks at the Rancor that comes out as if it's no challenge. Not even Maris's Rancor was a challenge. I love the confidence. He only needs one lightsaber for this fight. Okay, you might need the second lightsaber. This is one giant Star Wars-sized monster.
I have words for this boss fight later.
Starkiller begins to fight the Gorog, and Coda is there for moral support. After beating the first section of this boss fight, Starkiller pulls out his inner Kratos and cuts a piece of metal so he can stab the exposed brain of the Gorog. During the next section, I just kept dying. I don't know if it was poorly designed or I just suck at this game, but it took me so many tries. I remember playing this game as a kid and breezing through this. Was I a prodigy and didn't realize it and I just fell from grace? Finally, the next part. This is easy. I'll just chop up his hand.
F this again!
Starkiller and Coda make their way to the Baron, and the Baron gets eaten by the Gorog and Coda is captured. Then Sam Witwer puts his voice acting chops on display. What a way to perfectly capture the emotion of this scene. Clone or not, he is still truly a clone of Galen and cares for Coda. He took Galen under his wing despite all of the atrocities he committed because he knew there was still good in him. No one wants to see those they care about suffer. I wonder if I'll fare any better in the next section of this boss fight.
Not much time left.
Why does Coda need a health bar? Give me a break, I'm struggling here. Starkiller manages to kill the Gorog and rescue Coda. He force sashes his way through the most annoying boss in The Force Unleashed. Man, you have to smell like trash after that.
Trash. Yeah, I love trash. Yum, yum, trash.
Hell yeah, I love that little guy.
I love the scene between Starkiller and Coda. Starkiller is only looking for Juno, and since Coda was captured, he doesn't know where she is. Galen's alliance is on the run, and Starkiller doesn't view it as his own because he is a clone. Coda doesn't think this is possible because he is a Jedi and can sense his power. Clearly Vader is lying, and that would never be a stretch. The voice acting and acting in this scene is incredible. Starkiller is torn, and the main theme the game wanted to explore with him was his identity crisis. Starkiller was tortured through his time on Kamino. An identity crisis is a scary thing. Not knowing your place or purpose in the world. He is left feeling like he is just existing, and that sense of loneliness gets to you. He doesn't want to be a tool of Vader, he barely knows what he wants. This version of Starkiller needs to find out who he is. Coda is frustrated because the bigger picture is a galactic conflict and having another Jedi could turn the tide of the battle. There is major infliction behind Coda calling Starkiller boy. The first time they met, he viewed him as a boy because he wanted to draw out Vader. Here it is meant towards his immaturity with the situation at hand. Starkiller drops off Coda at a nearby spaceport and heads to Dagobah. Once Starkiller arrives on Dagobah, he immediately collects a holocron. Then a few more. One neat Easter egg is you can find Yoda's hut and see inside of it. Then Starkiller makes his way to the caves of Dagobah to find a not-so-baby Yoda. They have a brief conversation, and Yoda says, "That which you seek, inside you will find." I love this because the cave scene digs deeper into his identity crisis. He's surrounded by more versions of himself, and they are tortured souls symbolizing his lost self. The one thing that makes him complete is Juno. Remember what Coda told Juno he held onto in the end of the first game?
One beautiful thing he held on to, even at the end.
What?
You.
Juno is what makes Starkiller and Galen alike complete. That was the light within himself he held onto, and he knows that he must find her. He is in a hurry because the vision he had showed her in danger. Starkiller picks up Coda at Malastare, and they head back to the Rebel fleet. Two neat Easter eggs starts at the end of Coda's code, which is 1138, and Starkiller is Subject 1138. This is in reference to George Lucas's first film, THX 1138. Meanwhile, Vader is looking for his lost school project and he hires Boba Fett for the job. The Rebel Alliance has been struggling to get any significant victories over the Empire. Starkiller gives Coda schematics to Kamino for everything they need for a full-scale attack. The two have a nice conversation, and Coda doesn't care if he is Galen or a clone. Either way, his friend/apprentice is back. But Starkiller is here for one thing only: Juno. Fighting through the ship is interesting. You get some horror vibes from the crew that Boba assembled.
What the hell is that? Ah! Get it off me! Run for your life!
Starkiller isn't the only one back from the dead. So is Proxy. Starkiller doesn't care how Proxy got back. He just wants his girl. But that does show no man left behind mentality from the rebels to go back and rescue Proxy. The attack is ordered and Starkiller is off to find Juno. Proxy provides a cameo. Then yes, I have Force Repulse again. I can't wait to spam it. Juno is captured by Boba Fett, and as Starkiller tracks him down, it's too late. They are headed for Kamino. Don't mind that in the back. It's just Boba's new pet. Inside the reactor core, Starkiller fights the Terror Walker. Once he defeats it, you get to take it for a spin. It's fun getting to pilot the droid. Then you make your way through the ship and Starkiller is reunited with his nemesis, the Imperial Star Destroyer. It's like you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. Starkiller is pissed off enough to fire the cannon himself and blow up the Star Destroyer. It's time to take this fight to Kamino. On Kamino, Starkiller's goal is to find Juno. Coda wants his help in the attack, but Starkiller remains headstrong on finding her. He does give the rebels some assistance along the way, then he finds a cloning facility where Vader is cloning an army from his former apprentice. Starkiller knows that Juno is nearby, and he goes to face Vader alone. Walking through the halls is intense. It's a dark lit room with ambient noises and you can hear Vader's breathing. Vader doesn't say anything. Then Starkiller is hit with the memories and the voices of what he fears coming to life, not being accepted for what he is. I wish they would have stuck with this story thread more. This drew me in so much. It's haunting walking through, seeing and hearing the memories that haunt Starkiller along with being surrounded by clones of himself. Vader's manipulation of Starkiller is terrifying, and he now has Starkiller right where he wants him. Vader keeps toying with Starkiller, trying to draw him back to the dark side so he can remain a slave to him and serve him. He keeps doing this throughout the fight with Starkiller in the cloning facility, and more clones assist Vader. This is such a dark tone. Vader is literally fighting you with mutilated versions of yourself. I always love horror concepts in Star Wars, and I love the Death Troopers book, and this game does incorporate some horror elements nicely. Starkiller holds his own in their battle, and Vader's respirator changes as he tires in the fight. He can beat him again. Vader gets the upper hand when Starkiller is hit with a vision of the future where Juno dies. Vader flees and Starkiller finds him only to have Juno as bait. The terms of Vader's deal are simple. Do whatever he wants, or Juno dies.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Starkiller gives in and accepts Vader's deal. Juno grabs one of Starkiller's lightsabers and tries to attack Vader, only to be yeeted outside. This sends Starkiller in a frenzy and he attacks Vader. The game puts you in a toned down version of Fury mode. Starkiller takes advantage of an ongoing lightning storm to attack Vader. After beating Vader, you go through a few quick-time events, then Vader throws a pillar on Starkiller. From his position, Starkiller throws another pillar towards Vader. He harnesses all of the lightning from the storm, sending waves of lightning into Vader. Starkiller stands over Vader and delivers an emotional line.
You've taken everything from me!
This ties back to the first game. Vader found him as a child just to use him. The pain in his voice is so sincere. He never had a chance to choose what he wanted in his life, and this ties nicely to his lost identity. Coda arrives to stop Starkiller from killing Vader because the Rebellion can get valuable information out of him, and he can find out what happened to Galen. After they get what they need from Vader, they will execute him. Obviously, Starkiller wants to finish him off now because of the hold that Vader has had over him his entire life. Then, like the first game, the choice is put in your hands. For this part of the video, we will go with the light side ending. Starkiller restrains himself and they take Vader as a prisoner. Starkiller makes his way to Juno and she did survive. It's sweet that she says we're alive. Aboard the ship, Starkiller confronts Vader to tell him that despite everything, he let him live.
As long as she lives, I will always control you.
Vader is always a puppet master. Starkiller leaves and they head to the base on Dantooine. Then what's this?
Boba Fett's tracking them?
The game ends there on a big cliffhanger. The story for The Force Unleashed 2, as well as the whole game, was mixed. The game did a fantastic job of making both these titles feeling related, and Starkiller's journey of self-discovery was a plot point that was very fascinating. You have to know who you are and what you want in your own life to be able to help those around you. It felt sidetracked at times by the game feeling like a Juno rescue mission, and they could have stuck more with exploring Starkiller being a clone and that causing friction with him and Coda. The game was rushed due to the 9-month crunch and 3 weeks to write the narrative. One line that was very tell don't show was Starkiller getting Coda from Alistair off screen. That was due to LucasArts wanting to get the game out quickly and capitalize off the success of the first game. Overall, I still really enjoyed this game and Starkiller's character. Vader is sadistic with Starkiller and toys with him because he views him as a tool and not an individual. Starkiller finding himself in Juno is a nice resolution. Then seeing Coda and Starkiller reunite is very satisfying. Plus, Starkiller is able to break the hold that Vader had over him and discover who he is. There are also some cool legacy characters brought into the game, like Yoda, Boba Fett, and Commander Cody. You don't see him in the game, but at the time when this piece of the expanded universe was canon, Cody was on Kamino. He was believed to be killed along with his squad when Starkiller attacked Kamino with the Rebel fleet. Art is subjective in every medium, and I love this game in the Force Unleashed series. Stories come down to our personal enjoyment and what we take from it. I really appreciate this game and what we got as a whole, especially when you take the behind the scenes factors into perspective. With a tight deadline, the team did work hard to give us the best game they could make under tight conditions. This game wasn't given the fair chance it deserved, but I still appreciate what we got here. Let's chop off Vader's hand one more time and get into the dark side ending. If you chose to kill Vader, a clone comes out and stabs Starkiller.
Remember when stab wounds were fatal?
Vader lied about the cloning process being perfect. This clone winds up killing everyone and is tasked with hunting down and killing the remaining rebels. I can't tell if it's a cold look or this clone did care for Juno, but he takes one last look at her lifeless body. Then he leaves with a squadron of TIE fighters to eliminate the remaining rebels. You would play as this clone in the Endor DLC, but unfortunately this DLC is not on the PC and I don't have a way to play it. I do remember the clone ends up going to Endor for what would be Episode 6 to kill off the movie's other main characters. Leia becomes a full-fledged Jedi. She wants to kill the clone for taking Luke's life. This game is more of the hack and slash fun like the first game, and sticks with the theme of kicking someone's ass with the Force. Many abilities return from the first game, with Mind Trick and Force Fury being the main 2 additions, as well as having 2 lightsabers. The gameplay mechanics are over the top with Force abilities, but I love it. It is so fun and makes you feel so much more powerful than all of your enemies. Before we wrap things up, thank you all for watching and suggesting this video. I want to shout out our buddy Meanmonger. Thanks for watching and all your support. This man has been taking time to look over our scripts and videos throughout the production process. I touched on my thoughts for the game's story earlier, and like I said, I do love these games and what Starkiller brought to the universe. Unfortunately, there was studio meddling involved, and it took me about 4 hours to beat the game. That is incredibly short for a single player campaign. You can unlock a harder difficulty, and an Endor DLC was released on December 14th, 2010. This DLC isn't on Steam. They also added challenges to add to the total amount of time you can play this game. Other ideas floated around instead of playing as Starkiller. One potential idea was playing as Yoda, a Yoda Unleashed game. This game had a strong opening, selling 500,000 copies in its first 2 weeks, but the sales would die down and the game would become a financial failure. Eventually, LucasArts would stop developing games entirely. They did get to work on a now famous cancelled game, Star Wars 1313. But the mouse had other plans. Disney wanted to reshape the canon with their own stories. There was talks of a Force Unleashed 3, and it would have been an ambitious title that would have been more open world. Starkiller would have teamed up with Vader to take down a threat brought onto them by the Emperor. I think time has been kinder to the Force Unleashed series, and fans would like to see Starkiller in the new canon. This game has its flaws, but I'd still give it a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it so much and loved it as a kid. I remember for a while thinking this was the better of the two, but now I'd say the first one is better as a whole. That's our take on the Force Unleashed 2, and thank you guys for suggesting this video. I had a blast revisiting it. If there is a game you'd like to see covered on the What Made It Great series, leave us a comment or email it to us. You can also send us an email to game with us. Leave your gamer tag in the email and we will get back to you. Our email is twoaveragebrothers@gmail.com. Thanks for watching and all the support. Peace!